In 1942, NASA scientists recorded an unusual phenomenon that immediately captured the attention of the entire scientific community. This anomaly was so extraordinary and sudden that analysts working in laboratories in Langley, as well as researchers around the world, had to set aside their usual reports and focus on their monitors. In other words, it was not about launching a new rocket, nor about the appearance of another military object on the horizon, or any technological innovations. No, the cause of this excitement stemmed directly from Earth itself, from its depths and surface. And this was especially alarming because it involved our planet, which for centuries had endured its own tragedies, wars, and disasters. Earth, considered the oldest and most scarred, was sending a distress signal, like a call for help. The most astonishing part was that this signal originated precisely from the region known as Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, the place where the first major culture was born, where the first cities and laws appeared. For millennia, this land, once rich and fertile, had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, from Babylon to modern states. Suddenly, on satellite images, this land began to look different from usual. Instead of the familiar green and brown shades indicating wealth and fertility, it appeared as the ticking of a dying pulse, like a body losing strength. And even more astonishing, the mighty Euphrates River, which had served as a witness to history, legends, and battles for centuries, started disappearing at an unprecedented rate. On satellite images, it transformed from a broad water artery into a dull, barely visible trace, like a dying pulse within the vast organism of the planet. But the most remarkable thing was not the drying process itself, but that mysterious objects began to emerge from beneath the water's surface. The first signs of alarm did not come from scientists, but from simple fishermen and farmers, living along the riverbanks in Iraq and Syria. They told frightening and strange stories that were difficult to explain. People spoke of entire ghost towns, with walls and towers slowly rising from the receding water, as if in a dream. They spoke of caves opening on the dried-up banks, from which strange sounds emanated. Sometimes the howling of the wind, sometimes the clinking of chains. Then rumors appeared about treasures, about immense riches that, as claimed, the river had supposedly hidden beneath the water layer for thousands of years. These stories quickly accumulated details from ancient texts and legends, long forgotten. There were even prophecies suggesting that when the Euphrates completely dried up, it would reveal a mountain of gold, which all of humanity would fight over, and that out of every 100 survivors after the catastrophe, only one person would be able to survive. What once seemed mere folklore and fairy tales suddenly appeared very real and terrifying. The world stood still in anticipation, watching as the river revealed secrets hidden for centuries, as if it itself wanted to tell its stories. Before we proceed to the main events, I would like to ask for a small favor. Your attention and interest are the best thanks for our work. A quick glance at what is happening helps to understand how vast and significant these events are. To grasp the full depth of what is occurring along the Euphrates, and to distinguish truth from fiction, we must first look at other remarkable discoveries made in the aquatic expanses of our planet. Let us embark together on a journey through other rivers of the world, which also conceal no less mysterious secrets, hidden beneath the water for centuries. This will ultimately help us return to the main character of our story, the drying Euphrates, and uncover all its hidden mysteries. Scientists and historians suggest that the found sword was most likely a weapon created during the Viking era, specifically a Carolingian sword. This type of weapon was particularly popular among northern peoples due to its high durability, balance, and longevity. These swords often became family heirlooms, passed down from generation to generation, becoming part of rich traditions and family history. They were kept with reverence, serving as symbols of status and heritage, and often as valuable monuments commemorating glorious battles and ancestors. But how did this rare and valuable item end up at the bottom of the river? There are several theories among experts and historians, each interesting and worthy of attention. The first, most romantic and vivid version suggests that the sword could have been part of an ancient ritual associated with the pagan traditions of Northern European peoples. In these cultures, there was a custom of offering weapons as sacrifices to the gods, especially after victories in battles. At that time, the river was considered not just a natural obstacle, but a kind of portal to another supernatural world. Deep within the waters, there lay not only trophies but also a spiritual realm through which the soul of a fallen warrior could journey to the afterlife. By offering weapons to the river, people believed that these would become good gifts to the gods, helping to win future battles or providing protection in the afterlife. Perhaps this sword was the last gift left by a Viking to a fallen relative or to himself, as a symbol of gratitude for a victory or as a ritual object intended to ensure his safety in another realm of existence. The second version seems more grounded, but no less plausible. It suggests that the sword was simply lost due to an accidental situation, related to a dangerous crossing of the river or during a fierce battle. Imagine the scene. A band of Vikings traveling in their longships, drakars, upstream, engaged in combat with local Saxons. In the heat of battle, amid the chaos of combat, one of the warriors accidentally drops his precious weapon into the water. It was a true catastrophe for him, as losing such a sword meant not only the loss of a valuable and expensive item, but also a fallen status, which could put him in a difficult position. To him, it was like losing a part of his strength and importance. For us, more than 1,000 years later, this incident became an invaluable discovery. The most remarkable aspect of this is the preservation of the sword. Thanks to the unique features of the riverbed and the low oxygen content in the water, the silt covering the weapon became an excellent preservative. It protected the metal from complete decay and corrosion, allowing us today to hold in our hands the very same weapon as the Scandinavian warrior from the 10th century. This find is not just a piece of iron or metal, it is a living testament to a bygone era connected to heroic times and legends. It reminds us that beneath the calm surface of a river, entire stories of battles, gods, and heroes may be hidden, waiting for their moment to be told again. Sometimes rivers bring not only treasures or ancient artifacts, but also darker and more troubling signs. In 2018, Europe faced an unusual drought that caused a sharp decline in river water levels. As a result, unexpected discoveries began to emerge from the long-hidden riverbed. Where once the water was full of life and navigation, now lay hungry stones, ancient hydrological markers created by people many centuries ago to warn future generations of impending dangers. These stones are not just boulders, they are mysterious symbols carved and inscribed in the Middle Ages. Over centuries, when water levels dropped to critical points, dates and inscriptions left by people appeared on these stones. The drought, which engulfed fields and destroyed crops, turned fertile lands into barren wastelands. As a result, widespread famine ensued, and each year the situation grew more critical. Prices for bread skyrocketed to unprecedented heights, making it inaccessible to most people, and those in dire circumstances were doomed to suffering and death. The appearance of the so-called famine stones became a harbinger of large-scale epidemics, social unrest, and numerous deaths. Each date carved into these stones left its mark on European history, like a gaping scar on its memory. Among these dates is the year 1616, when the 30 Years' War began, exacerbating an already catastrophic situation. The year 1707 witnessed the War of Spanish Succession, and 1642 marked another series of crop failures, preceding famine years, and revolutionary unrest that swept across Europe. These stones are not merely historical records of weather anomalies or climate disasters. They are living chronicles of human suffering and calamities. When these stones reappeared in the 21st century, causing shock among modern society, it became clear that technology, supermarkets, and global logistics had not made us less vulnerable to the whims of nature. We have grown accustomed to considering ourselves invincible, confident in our ability to control the surrounding world. But these ancient relics reminded us of another truth. They are a powerful and unsettling symbol of climate change, a reminder that our civilization, with all its achievements and technologies, still critically depends on the stability of natural cycles. The inscription on the stones, "If you see me, weep," took on a new global significance in 2018. It became not only a warning for the inhabitants of the Elbe River Valley, but also a distress signal for all humanity. The water in the rivers is drying up, and these changes reveal not only secrets of the past, but also very alarming signs of the future. Imagine an entire city frozen in time, not beneath a layer of volcanic ash like ancient Pompeii, but beneath a water surface that is crystal clear and calm. A city where tiled roofs, adorned with figures of dragons and phoenixes, still rise above the water, but instead of the sky above them, there are dozens of meters of lake surface. This is not fantasy, but reality. This is the city known as Shichen, or the Lions of China, an ancient Atlantis resting at the bottom of Lake Tiandao. Its disappearance is both tragic and grand, full of tragedy and majesty. In 1959, the Chinese government decided to build a new hydroelectric power station that was supposed to give a powerful boost to the country's development. The project was ambitious and required creating a massive reservoir capable of holding millions of cubic meters of water. As a result of this construction, hundreds of villages, dozens of towns, and two ancient cities, Hechen and Shichen, were to be submerged. Shichen, founded over 1,300 years ago during the Tang Dynasty, was considered a true gem of the region. It was the center of political, economic, and cultural life, with streets paved with stone and houses decorated with exquisite wood and stone carvings. The city had over 225 arches, numerous temples, and ancestral halls. But for the great hydroelectric project, these historical treasures were deemed unimportant. Nearly 300,000 people were forced to relocate, and water slowly but inexorably swallowed their history. Shichen's world disappeared for half a century, remaining only in legends, stories of the elders, and the memories of descendants. In 2001, the Chinese government decided to investigate what remained of the submerged heritage. To do this, a group of divers was assembled. They slowly and carefully swam beneath the ancient stone arches, on which recently discernible hieroglyphs and intricate bas-reliefs depicting bygone eras could still be seen. People immersed in the water looked into the windows of old houses, inside which remnants of long-lost wooden furniture could be seen. Tables, chairs, and other household items left in oblivion. The city walls, mighty and imposing, stood unshaken, crowned with massive gates that still looked as if they were ready to open their doors to anyone willing to enter this forgotten world. The temples, despite the years and underwater trials, preserved their graceful roof curves, and on the ridges of their domes, a statue of a mythical creature, a symbol of ancient faith and legends, was frozen in place. All of this was not just a heap of ruined walls and stone debris. It was an entire underwater ghost city, eternally sleeping beneath the water's surface, shrouded in silence and mystery. Today, this place is considered one of the most impressive underwater attractions in the world. Every dive here is almost a journey into the past, into an era when this city was filled with life and activity. Experienced divers describe their sensations as almost mystical. The sunlight piercing through the water creates a play of light and shadow on the ancient stones, as if bringing them to life. The absence of sounds except for their own breathing and the rustling water enhances the feeling that they have traveled through time and space. The history of this city is not only a story of sacrifices made in the name of progress. At the same time, it is a story of preservation's miracle. The water that once destroyed this city became its most faithful guardian. It protected it from destruction, from cultural revolutions, from vandals, and from time, which mercilessly erases everything in its path. Now, this sleeping underwater lion reminds us of the fragility of human heritage. It shows that even the most grandiose human creations can vanish in an instant, only to reappear centuries later to the world as a beautiful yet sorrowful ghost. Recently, near the University of York in England, a discovery was made that at first glance seemed insignificant. In one of the muddy pits left behind by an ancient settlement from the Iron Age, archaeologists found a human skull. Such finds are quite common, and usually they do not cause much surprise. However, when one of the scientists picked up the skull, something unusual caught his attention. Inside the skull, he noticed a yellowish, spongy mass. At first, he thought it was simply dirt or clay, but something about it made him look more closely. And suddenly, this changed his entire understanding of the preservation of human tissues. Inside this approximately 2,600-year-old skull, a brain was discovered, an organ that usually decomposes very quickly after death. This seemed almost impossible, since the brain is about 80% water and fats, and typically turns into a liquid substance within a few years. Finding a preserved brain that had survived 2,600 years was akin to a true miracle. Scientists from various fields, archaeologists, chemists, and neurologists, joined forces to solve this mystery. The skull belonged to a man who was about 30 years old and lived around the 6th century BCE. Based on the traces left on his vertebrae, he was hanged and then beheaded. This was a very unusual and likely ritualistic killing. After the execution, his head was apparently thrown into a deep pit filled with moist, oxygen-deprived clay, which in ancient times was part of the riverbed. It was these conditions, cold, oxygenless environment, and the unique chemical composition of the clay that caused the incredible preservation. Studies revealed that the proteins making up the brain tissue remained intact. The scientists managed to make a significant discovery that opened new horizons in understanding ancient human life. They identified key proteins such as neurofilaments and glial fibrillary acidic proteins, which had continued to support the structure of brain tissues. These proteins, like sturdy frameworks, preserved the soft brain tissues for thousands of years. It was akin to a piece of tofu cheese left in the refrigerator for 2,500 years, almost unchanged. Such a comparison helps to understand how astonishing and extraordinary this discovery is. It has opened a completely new chapter in the study of the past. Researchers now realize that under certain conditions, soft tissues can be preserved much longer than previously thought possible. This discovery gives hope that in the future, we will be able to find and study not only the bones of our ancient ancestors, but also their internal organs. This could provide invaluable information about their health, diet, and diseases, offering insights into people who lived hundreds and thousands of years ago. However, there is also a dark, almost gothic side to this story. We can study the brain of a person who lived during the founding of Rome and the dawn of Greek philosophy. We can see its structure, analyze the proteins it consists of, but we will never know what he thought in his last moments. What images, fears, or hopes were stored in those neurons that miraculously survived through the abyss of time? This brain, found at the bottom of an ancient river, is not just an archaeological artifact. It is a silent witness to human cruelty and the incredible ability of nature to preserve the most fragile secrets of the human soul. Every city, every settlement is built upon layers of its history, on layers of memory that sometimes conceal something very unexpected. For example, in the very center of Sacramento, the capital of California, beneath modern streets and building foundations, lies an entire cemetery of ships. These vessels arrived here during the famous California Gold Rush that began in 1849. It all started with one man, Samuel Brennan. Hearing about the gold discovery, he bought up all the shovels and pickaxes in San Francisco and rushed to Sacramento, shouting in the streets, "Gold! Gold on the American River!" This marked the beginning of a true frenzy that swept across the entire region. Hundreds of ships from all over the world flocked to San Francisco Bay. Their crews, barely having dropped anchor, would immediately desert their vessels and rush to the gold fields in pursuit of wealth. Soon, the harbor transformed into a forest of abandoned masts and wreckage. While the most resourceful sought to repurpose these abandoned ships, they were turned into warehouses, inns, brothels, shops, and even prisons. One such ship, named LaGrange, became the city's first hospital. But the Sacramento River, like a devilish force, was treacherous. Floods often occurred, inundating the city and turning streets into muddy, swiftly flowing channels. In response, the authorities made a radical decision. To protect the city from destructive floods, they decided to raise the entire city's level by 10 to 15 feet, roughly 3 to 5 meters. This large-scale engineering project became one of the most ambitious in the region's history. Streets were filled with earth, and buildings were either lifted on special jacks or simply extended from the second floor upward. First floors were converted into basements, and sometimes entire structures were raised to avoid water damage. This monumental effort became a vital chapter in the city's development and its struggle against natural elements. What was to be done with the dozens of ships that had long been stranded on the shore, obstructing modern construction and city growth? They were simply buried along with other debris and construction waste, becoming part of the future foundation of the new settlement. These ships remained abandoned and forgotten for many years, and no one paid them any mind. They became part of history lying beneath the feet of modern inhabitants, hidden beneath layers of earth and asphalt. However, in the 20th century, when Sacramento began extensive construction of modern buildings with deep foundations, workers unexpectedly started discovering astonishing finds. They uncovered giant wooden hulls of ships that had been hidden underground for decades. These discoveries sparked great interest among archaeologists and historians. For specialists, it was a true treasure. Beneath the city streets, a genuine layer of time was revealed, like a capsule preserving memories of a bygone era. One of the most famous of these ships was the vessel called Sea Storm, discovered during the construction of a hotel. Its hull remained remarkably well preserved thanks to the conditions and oxygen-deprived river mud in which it had lain for decades. Along with it, other ships were found, such as the vessel named City of Boston. Today, walking through Sacramento's historic center, one can almost feel as if they are walking on the decks of ships from the Gold Rush era. These ships lie directly beneath the asphalt, frozen in time, and hold in their holds not gold, but something far more valuable. Hidden within their secret holds is a story, a tale of a mad era when people from all corners of the world cast everything aside in pursuit of a fleeting dream of wealth and a new life. The rivers that stretched across continents initially brought here hundreds of adventurers and explorers, and years later, along with humanity, they buried these vessels beneath layers of earth and water. These sunken ships have become part of a unique testament to their time, preserved for future generations. They serve as a reminder of how, for centuries, people searched for the mythical Atlantis, the legendary island spoken of by the ancients. Sometimes real stories are just as captivating as legends. One such remarkable story is the discovery of the city of Heraklion Thonis, a port of Egypt that served as the main maritime gateway to the land of the pharaohs, long before the founding of the famous Alexandria. This port existed for 12 centuries, known only from ancient sources, primarily from the texts of Herodotus and other Greek historians. It was believed to be either a myth or another name for a city already known. But everything changed in the 20th century when French underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio made a sensational discovery. Using modern seabed scanning equipment, his team uncovered in Abu Qir Bay, near the Egyptian coast, not just a few artifacts, but an entire sunken city. This city suddenly disappeared beneath the waters around the 7th century AD, likely due to an earthquake that caused the ground to liquefy. The sand and clay on which the city stood turned into water, and Heraklion Thonis was completely engulfed by the sea. Among the hundreds of finds recovered from the depths, one was particularly striking, a giant statue carved from red granite, over 5 meters tall. It depicted the Nile god Hapi, the protector of the river and fertility. Even more impressive was an almost perfectly preserved statue of a falcon-headed god, standing at the entrance to the city's main temple. Carved from dark granite, it looked out from the depths of the ages with regal calm. Imagine the feeling of archaeologists when their underwater flashlights first illuminated the face of this ancient deity emerging from the murky water. The statue of Horus was one of the most important gods in the ancient Egyptian pantheon. He was considered the son of the mighty gods Osiris and Isis. In Egyptian mythology, he symbolized royal authority and served as the protector of the land and its people. His image was so significant that the statue of Horus at the port's entrance served as a powerful symbol for all who came or departed by sea. This statue reminded sailors of divine protection and that they were entering the land of the gods, the sacred land of Egypt. Raising such giants from the depths of the sea was an incredibly complex engineering task, requiring many hours of labor and precision. It is hard to imagine how much effort and patience it took to free these ancient statues from centuries of captivity in mud, sand, and sea grime. Doing so was no easy task. It was a true battle against nature and time. And so, after many hours of painstaking work, the statue of Horus was once again bathed in bright sunlight, and the world sighed with relief. It was an event, like a return from oblivion, from the depths of forgetfulness. The restoration of the statue became a true symbol of revival and hope, demonstrating that even the most ancient and ruined monuments can be brought back to life. The unveiling of this monument, along with related discoveries such as the statue of Horus, fundamentally changed our understanding of Egypt's late period. They showed how closely Egypt and the Greek world were intertwined, despite centuries of differences and conflicts. The city where the statue was found was a true cosmopolitan center, where different cultures, religions, and traditions merged. Its streets and squares intertwined ideas and customs, creating a unique atmosphere. However, despite its wealth and cultural diversity, the city was doomed. Its tragic fall served as a stark reminder of how quickly and mercilessly nature can erase even mankind's most magnificent creations from the face of the earth. An important part of this city's history is the Nile Delta. Initially, it was the delta that gave life to this place, ensuring prosperity, wealth, and development. But over time, the same river became its grave, swallowing it and preserving its secrets for future generations. This incredible story is one of the most mysterious and romantic that a river could hold. It seems to conceal secrets that reveal themselves only to those who can listen and see deeper than what first appears. Let us now turn to the late Middle Ages. One day in Paris at the end of the 11th century, the body of a young woman was recovered from the city's wall waters. Her face appeared no older than 16, and no signs of violence were found on her body, making the cause of her death even more mysterious. At that time, when such unidentified bodies were discovered, they were displayed in the city morgue in hopes that a passerby might recognize the deceased. But despite all efforts, no one identified this girl. However, the pathologist working in the morgue was so struck by her beauty and serene expression that he decided to make a death mask of her. The gentle, mysterious smile playing on her lips resembled the famous smile of the Mona Lisa, giving the mask a special allure. She was called the Mask of the Unknown Woman from the Wall, or the Lincoln of the case. It quickly became famous. Soon, copies of this mask began to be sold in souvenir shops across Paris, and then it spread throughout Europe. It became a symbol of mysterious beauty, tragic love, and death. Artists, poets, and writers were captivated by her image, as she concealed something mystical and alluring. Albert Camus compared her smile to that of Gionda, a famous Italian woman, a symbol of beauty and mystery. Vladimir Nabokov dedicated a poem to her, and dozens of authors have tried to unravel her secret. Questions about whether she was unhappy have persisted. Millions of people around the world, learning the art of saving lives, have repeatedly resorted to mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and often at the moment they did so, their lips touched the face of a girl who drowned in the Seine River over 100 years ago. Since then, this image has become a symbol of hope and salvation for many. The lips of this unnamed girl, about whom nothing is known, have become the most kissed in human history. Although she never managed to save a life herself, after her death she helped preserve countless other lives, becoming part of a great chain of rescue. The identity of this stranger remains a mystery. She was never identified, and her name has forever vanished into the depths of time. She remains a mysterious figure forever imprinted in people's memories, like a gift the river bestowed upon the world. This story is a powerful reminder that rivers hold not only water and natural riches, but also human destinies, tragedies, and secrets. They become the final refuge for nameless tragedies that sometimes, in the most astonishing way, turn into symbols of hope and sometimes into salvation. The girl's smile from the Seine, extracted from the dark waters of the river, has become a beacon for those learning to bring people back from the brink of death, helping them find life anew. And so we return once again to the Euphrates River, that great and mysterious flow that today attracts the attention not only of archaeologists and historians, but also of military analysts, theologians, and those seeking sensational stories. What is happening there now goes beyond ordinary archaeological discoveries. Many experts believe this process was foretold thousands of years ago in sacred texts. First, it is necessary to clarify the facts. Modern satellite images and field research confirm the Euphrates River, along with its twin brother, the Tigris, is experiencing a real crisis. Their waters are rapidly diminishing, and this phenomenon is catastrophic. The causes of this drying up are numerous and complex by nature. Among them are aggressive dam construction in Turkey, which intercepts much of the flow, leading to a significant drop in water levels. Long droughts related to global climate change also influence the situation, as does the inefficient use of water resources in the agriculture of Iraq and Syria. Despite the various reasons, the outcome is the same. The rivers have begun to expose their beds, and this phenomenon causes concern among all who follow the fate of these waterways. It is at this moment that facts begin to intertwine with prophecies that have accompanied the history of these lands for centuries. One of the most well-known is a prophecy from Islamic tradition, from the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad. It is said that the hour will not come until the Euphrates River reveals a mountain of gold, for which people will fight. This prophecy indicates that from this mountain, which according to the prophet is hidden underground, people in the future will discover wealth, gold, coins, and jewels. It also states that during the struggle for this treasure, 99 out of 100 people will perish, and only one will survive. For centuries, this prophecy has been interpreted as a metaphor, symbolizing the fight for wealth, power, and destiny. However, today the situation has changed. When local residents and smugglers actually find ancient gold jewelry, coins, and other artifacts in the dried riverbeds, this metaphor takes on a very ominous concreteness. Currently, it is not about a mountain of gold, but about discoveries that cause real excitement and spark local conflicts related to control over this wealth. At the same time, there is another prophecy, darker and more frightening. It is recorded in the Christian Bible, in the book of Revelation. It speaks of 6 angels blowing trumpets of the apocalypse, symbolizing the approaching end of days. On the Syrian shore of the reservoir created on the Euphrates River near the city of Assad, suddenly views of ancient ruins emerged, previously hidden beneath the water. These remnants of the ancient city of Euphrates, also known as the Pompeii of the desert, attracted the attention of archaeologists and history enthusiasts. When the water level dropped, old ruins appeared from beneath the surface, telling of bygone eras. This city was an important center, initially Hellenistic, then Roman. It served as a defensive fortress where some of the world's oldest Christian churches and synagogues were discovered, decorated with unique frescoes preserved through the centuries. If the water level continues to fall, new parts of the city that have not yet been explored may be uncovered, allowing archaeologists to discover many previously unknown artifacts. These new findings could include entire neighborhoods containing valuable information about ancient civilizations. In Iraq, beneath the waters of the Tigris and Euphrates, ruins of ancient settlements dating back 4,000 to 5,000 years have also begun to surface. There lie the remains of Sumerian and Babylonian cities, ancient centers of culture and power, considered by many to be among the oldest in human history. Entire archives are hidden underwater, cuneiform tablets indicating a wealth of knowledge, as well as palaces and temples that could radically change our understanding of early history. These discoveries might help scientists better understand how civilization developed in its infancy, how ancient people lived, and what their beliefs and customs were. All of this presents a unique opportunity not only to expand knowledge but also to perhaps open new chapters in the history books. Of course, rumors and theories have also arisen around these events, as is always the case with sensational discoveries. Videos and photographs are circulating on the internet, which, according to their authors, show entrances to caves and tunnels that have opened along the riverbanks. Some claim that strange sounds can be heard inside these caves, moans or the ringing of chains, that evoke a sense of something mystical among observers. These sounds, some believe, are connected to prophecies about 4 angels mentioned in ancient texts. Other, more conspiracy-oriented theories suggest that giant tombs of ancient kings, or even the remains of mythical Nephilim, giants referenced in the Bible, may lie beneath the Euphrates riverbed. While science has yet to confirm these fantastical hypotheses, their very emergence highlights the profound symbolic significance of the Euphrates drying up. This is not merely a natural phenomenon, but a symbol of profound change occurring in the world. The Euphrates is more than just a river. It is a vital artery that has nourished civilizations since ancient times. It served as a boundary between great empires, symbolized borders and divisions, and was the setting for biblical stories. Its drying up today is perceived not as an ordinary natural event, but as a disruption of the world order, a Pandora's box opening, potentially unleashing forces and secrets long hidden from human eyes. So what does this ancient stream truly conceal? Perhaps its depths hide treasures capable of plunging the world into war, demonic entities linked to ancient prophecies, or priceless archaeological discoveries that could help us better understand ourselves and our history. Maybe all of these at once. One thing is certain. The veil of mystery surrounding the world's oldest river is slowly lifting, and what humanity will see when the river is completely dry may be shocking and awe-inspiring, far more powerful than any gold or rare artifact. The world holds its breath, watching the pulse of the dying river, for this event is not just a natural occurrence, but a symbolic change that could alter our perception of the past and the future.